Hi, I'm Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics. Today I have a new quilt pattern that we're going to make, and we're going to make it from a strip set. So strip sets, 2.5-inch strips, lots of different pieces. I'm going to use the Americana combination, and I'm really excited to see how this pattern turns out. So let's get started sewing. Strip sets or jelly rolls come in lots of different combinations. We have a lot of batik ones here. We have Amy Butler. We have a variety of fabrics that they come in. They come in anything you can imagine. You can buy a strip set. Sometimes they're packaged like this, still 40 strips, still 2.5 inches. Sometimes they look like this, and they have different names, Bolly Pops, Pixie Sticks, but it's the same basic product, and any of these will look good in the pattern that we're going to do today. I'm going to use this roll because it's got bigger scale prints, and I want to see a lot of the prints because it's a simpler pattern and it will really highlight the different prints. So I'm going to show you how to cut it, and then we'll stitch it up. Let's open up the strips here. I love strip sets because you get an instant variety of prints that are all coordinated. Now this happens to be one that we cut, so this does not have pinked edges. I prefer to sew with them with the straight edges, but you can do it either way. All right, so we've got really nice prints here. These are from Northcott. They're stars and stripes. Let Freedom Ring here. We've got some eagles. So I'm going to use the dark blue ones for my accent piece, and I'm going to use the light ones on the edge of the quilt. Then I'm going to take all these nice colorful ones with the flag and the stripe and the reds, and I'm going to use those in the middle of the quilt. So I'm going to cut some of those darker red ones to a specific length, and then I'll show you what goes where on the quilt. All right, I've pre-cut the pieces here. So these are the strips that are going to be in the quilt, and I'm going to put the accent color, one on each end, and then these guys are going to be on the end of the strips on both edges also. So it is important with this pattern to lay out your pieces ahead of time in the order you want them in so that they look good next to the next strip. So I carefully laid these out. This is the order in which they're going to be in the quilt. So these are 24-inch pieces. I'm going to pile them back up so I don't get confused. And then I've got some shorter pieces here and some 2.5-inch squares. And this is all that was left over. So I don't have very much left over, but I'm pretty sure after I finish the quilt, I'll be making something out of this, either a little pillow to match or perhaps a piece to border. So let me show you the sizes you need for this quilt. I got my long strips here. I have 25 of them, and I cut them at 24 inches. Then the accent, I used 2 different fabrics, and I needed 50 pieces at 2.5 inches, and those are square. Then for the lights, that's these ones here, I have some 8s, some 6.5s, and some 5 inches. And those are going to go on the end of the strips here. So I think I used a total of 9 strips here, 25 strips here, and 2 strips here. We will have all these numbers available as a free download on our website, so you won't have to remember all of this. I've got all my pieces clamped together here so they don't get out of order, and now I'm going to start sewing the rows together. Now this is what I'm going to use to put my rows together. This is the first time I've made this quilt. I haven't actually seen it yet, so we will all be seeing it for the first time right now. So we're going to take one of the accents and we're going to sew it on both ends of our first strip here. So this is what the first row is going to be. A light one, an accent, a long strip, an accent, and another light one. So these are the 2 middle-sized light pieces here. So I'm just going to sew them in order. We are going to finger press all the seams away from the center. It's just going to make it easier. So I'm aiming the seams that way, and I'm just finger pressing them. Then I'm doing the same thing at this end. I'm going to press them away from the center. Now I'm going to put this row aside. I'm going to set it right here, and I'm just going to leave it right there for a moment, and I'm going to make the next row. So we'll take that piece off. And as we build up rows, I'll get another clamp and I'll clamp them in order here. So same thing here. We're going to use, we used the star last time, so for this row, we're going to use the other accent. One of those. Now we're going to use a long one on that end and a short one on this end. So if you're worried you're going to get confused, you can pin all that there while you sew these pieces onto that end. So here's my first strip. I've got the second strip done. I'm going to put it right on top of that one, and I'm just going to clamp them together so that they won't get out of order. Now I'm going to sew the third strip. You can continue on making individual rows until the whole quilt is done, but if you want to save some time, you can leave these clamped together, and you can take your accents and you can chain piece this. So they're going to stay together, they're in order, and all I have to do is sew the accents on every other one. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to push that out of the way, and I'm going to sew a star onto this one. Then I'm going to grab the next piece, and I'm going to sew a plain onto that one. You can either leave it on the machine like this, or you can snip them if that helps you keep them in order. See, because you can flip them out of the way. So that might be easier for you. Either way works. But this way, all you have to do is see, oh, the last one had the plain. Now I'm going to use the star. Now, that one end, it's got the accents all on it. Now we're going to do the same thing with this end. And we're going to use whatever accent piece you used on this end, you want that same one on the other end. So I'm snipping off the threads here between all the rows, and it looks kind of like a mess, but they're clamped together, so we won't have any problem keeping these in order. And I'm going to take them up to the table and show you what the rows look like. So see, everything is held together, and you can just shake it out. Now we can see our rows a little bit better. So here's my rows with the accents. And what's going to happen is these are going to be all laid out in order here. And then the light pieces that go on the end. So we started off with, we're going to do the medium, the small, the medium, the big. So you can just take your accents here. We've got medium, small, medium, big. And we're going to continue on with that, and it's going to make, these are all going to be lined up here. So this row will get pulled like that, that. So we're going to have a wavy effect here, and we're going to have the same thing on the other end. And what happens is these rows are all exactly the same length. So stitching them together is going to go really, really quick. So you can either lay out your pieces here. So on this side, again, we've got medium, big, then we're going to go medium, and then we're going to go small. So you can either pin these on and sew the rows individually, or you can get your sketch of the whole quilt and take all these pieces next to you and stitch them on as you go. Either way, whatever is easier for you. So here's just a rough sketch. We'll have a better one for you on the download, but we've just got for the ends here, we've got an A size, a B size, a C size, a B size, and A size. So you can put your sketch next to you on the machine along with the A, B's, and C's and stitch it that way, or you can lay out your rows on a table and pin them together. I've got all the rows sewn together and I got them clipped. So let me show you an easy way to iron these. I'm just going to move the clips down to this end a little bit. So these are all finger pressed, so they're all pretty much going the way I want them to go. And you can leave them clipped, And then you can iron it right here. They're going to stay in order. Look at how quick that is. So just do this for this whole side. Then we'll just shake it back in place here. Then we'll turn it around. We'll move the clips down to this end and we'll iron all of these guys. Now I'm ready to sew the rows together. So I'm going to take off the first row. The next row is going to go right below it. So I'm just going to work with those two right now, and I'm going to take off these rows one at a time, and I'm going to add them to the bottom of this every time. So I'm going to put this on my lap. Now these two rows are exactly the same length. So I'm going to put a pin way down here because the row is so long, and I'm going to line up the top. And if you want, you could pin it in the middle. I'm not going to because they're going to stitch up so fast. I don't think I'm going to need to pin it. So I'm going to get started a little. Use my 1/4 inch again. So I'm holding this way back here so I can make sure it's lined up. And I'm going to grab it in the middle. And then I'm just going to sew right down here. None of the seams match up, so we're not matching any intersections at all. So it sews really fast. So this is the first two sewn together. So you can see these two, the intersections don't match. We are going to finger press every seam to the right here. So I'm pulling it open with the palm of my hands, and then I'm pressing with my fingernail. If you don't like to use your fingernail, you can use the back of a spoon or the edge of a spoon. This just really helps keep it flat. You have to do a little extra pressing where those seams are. Now we're going to take the next piece. So I'm just going to unclamp. Now this one's going to go on the bottom. I'm going to reclamp so these stay in order the whole time. Even if I get interrupted, they're still going to be in order. Now again, this one is going to match. It's exactly the same length, so same procedure. Might want to sew a little at the beginning. Now we can stick a pin down here and then pull it way far away, grab in the middle, and sew that whole seam. So you can see how fast these rows go together. So the only thing I need to make sure of is that these seam allowances lay the way that I've ironed them. But it really stitches up fast. And now you can start to see the pattern with the accent colors. It's just going to make a little broken wavy line there. And then the same thing on this end. I always like to pull these threads, any threads you've got here. Every row I sew on, I'm going to check for threads sticking out here and trim them as I go. It just saves a lot of time later. So that's really fun. I'm going to keep sewing the rows together till I have the whole quilt done. And it won't take very long, and then we'll work on the borders. Now, if you can't sew your whole quilt in one sitting, I usually can't, and I'm going to be interrupted, I'm going to clip this on to my strips so that I know these go this way. See, I wouldn't want to pick it up the wrong way because they won't be in the right order. So I am going to put this on here, and I'm going to clamp it on. Then I know when I start sewing next that I will be doing the correct order. So that'll save you a lot of time and perhaps a lot of seam ripping. These are the scraps I have left from cutting out my quilt. So I've put them in a nice order here, and I'm going to show you how to make a really fast pieced border with these. So I've got 3 stacks, each one is laid out exactly the same. So I'm going to take this over to the machine and I'm going to sew them side by side and make a little strip unit. Just use a 1/4 inch seam. They're not very long, it won't take that long to stitch it. And just stitch them side by side. And as I usually do, I'm going to finger press it all to one side. Now we'll put this one on and we'll just continue with the whole stack. All right, now we've got a nice little strip unit here. And we're going to take this over to the cutting board and we're going to cut some 2.5 inch strips. I've got it nice and flat, and the easiest way for me to cut this is in a smaller piece. So I'm going to fold it back closed there, and I'm going to put this along the line on my cutting board. Then I'm going to make a fresh cut here near the end. And I'm going to line this up with the lines on the cutting board, and then I'm just going to cut every 2.5 inches. Now we're simply going to take these and we're going to stitch them into a really long border, and look how fast that stitches up. And this will make a really nice pieced border for around our quilt. I'm just sewing them end to end. And this whole border literally took less than 10 minutes. But because we're working with the strip units, it's like volume piecing. You get all this all at once. So I'm going to sew it into long pieces. Then I'm going to figure out exactly how long each piece needs to be for one side of the quilt. And so I'll probably end up snipping out some of the stitches at that particular length so that it'll fit the quilt exactly, and we will stitch that on. Here's what I'm going to do for the borders. I'm going to cut a 2.5 inch strip of this red, and it's going to go all the way around here on all 4 sides. Then I'm going to take the pieced border, and it's going to go around here, and it's going to go down the sides. And then I'm going to use this really nice eagle print, and I'll cut it a little bit wider, maybe a 5 inch all the way around. So putting this red in the middle here, I then will not have to match up all of these seams. If I'd put this right here, I'm going to have to match every seam. I don't want to do that. So the lines will still line up, but I won't have to make all those intersections meet, so it'll stitch on really, really fast. So I'm really excited to get this quilt finished up and get it onto the quilting machine. We're calling this quilt step ladder because it looks a lot like ladder rungs here, and you can see the little steps here. Really happy with how it turned out. Now I was able to get all of this out of one strip set because my strip set happened to have some really light ones here and a nice accent color. Of course, you can cut yardage for these parts here. Now mine, I didn't pay that much attention to which fabric was where. I've got some stars all together and some eagles and some other lights, but they're all the same shade, so it really doesn't matter. And here's where we did that accent, every other one, star and plain. And it makes a nice, even stair-step fashion there. Here's that pieced border that we did. Now that's an option. That's what we made with those leftover pieces from the jelly roll. So I did a 2.5 inch border, then that pieced border, and then I did a 5 inch border, and it turned out really balanced and nice. It's about 57 by 67. Looks really good in Americana colors. It makes a great Quilt of Valor gift. But of course, this would look good in any sort of strip set. If you want to see how we did the special flanged binding here, we do have that in another video. So this was a really fun project, and it went together really, really fast. So remember, step ladder, put your strips together, nice plain accent, and have a lot of fun making your quilt.